Let's get a quick take on the overall turnout in this year's primary election that just finished on Tuesday. Over 1.1 million people voted, including over 290,000 unaffiliated voters for the first time. Patty Calhoun from Westward, we made news, and it was part of my thing about all these unaffiliated voters. This was going to be the big change. It didn't seem to change anything at all.
Well, except for unaffiliated voters, they felt much more involved in the process. And I talked to a lot of people who were trying to decide, weigh things, decide should I vote, should I not vote, which side should I vote on. So they were really thinking about it. I think people felt much more engaged in the process. Not to quote Caldera, but it was fun as an unaffiliated to be able to be involved, especially after having had to sit through all those commercials for so long.
As an unaffiliated voter, I didn't like the idea that he compared us to a little kid grabbing the wheel, but I understood his point, John. David Copeland from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. The whole idea of unaffiliated voters was the headline, but it seemed the turnout, it was slow to come to, but the turnout seemed pretty good compared to other primaries. Did you think the primary reason that is because of the competitive races we had on both sides of the ticket?
Probably, yes. Very competitive on both sides for the governor's race. Whether the unaffiliated has made a difference is something we still don't know. That's partly because these days, with the media being cut and cut and cut, there wasn't exit polling, or at least there wasn't much of it. So it doesn't look like the unaffiliated has made much of a difference in any of the races, but it would be nice to have some deeper polling data so we can know for sure.
Ed Seelover from the Denver Business Journal. We've been talking all about it. What's your impression, and also what you've heard from other folks in the field, other politicians, elected leaders, about the unaffiliated voter impact?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the politicians didn't quite know how to go after the unaffiliated voter. You know, just personal anecdotal evidence. My wife is registered with the party. I'm not. She got a ton of direct mail. I got 2 pieces from one candidate, so it wasn't like they were really reaching out to the unaffiliateds. I think it is interesting to note how more than half of them voted within the last 5 days of the election, and I don't know whether that is because they were waiting for so long or because for some it was just a matter of, okay, is my vote worth it at this point? I don't think the vote showed unaffiliated influence this year. You got probably the most liberal Democratic candidate for the governor winning, and if not the most conservative, Walker Stapleton certainly played to the most conservative end of the party, but will that make them come out in 2 years because they saw what happened and they will want to make a difference in 2 years?
Rounding up the panel, Joey Bunge, Deputy Managing Editor at Colorado Politics. It's great to have you back on the panel. Wrap it up for us about unaffiliated voters. Is this something that we're going to learn a greater impact later, or was it second verse same as the first?
Well, I think this is a learn-as-you-go process, but I believe there's a myth about unaffiliated voters. You know, we all assume they're all these moderates. I don't think that's true at all. I think some people are unaffiliated because they don't think the Republican Party is conservative enough, or they don't think the Democratic Party is liberal enough. So that doesn't mean that they're going to, if they don't think the Democratic Party is liberal enough, they're not going to vote for a conservative. You know, the one thing that we did see on primary day was a lot of people voting for Democrats, unaffiliated voters voting for Democrats. I think there were 100,000 more votes cast for Democrats than there were for Republicans. You know, that doesn't speak well for Republicans in November, regardless of where the unaffiliated voters fall.